Hello, my name is Richard and I'm the Knowledge and Evidence Officer for the Scottish Wildlife Trust. Today I'm going to talk a bit about the Trust's use of ArcGIS Online to increase access to our data, but first I thought I'd start with a bit about the Scottish Wildlife Trust itself and my work within it. So the Trust is an independent charity that was founded in 1964 and is part of the larger Wildlife Trust movement. We work with members, partners and supporters in pursuit of our vision of healthy, resilient ecosystems across Scotland's land and seas. We manage over 100 reserves across Scotland, and these vary in size, habitat and setting. For example, our smallest reserve is around 800 metres squared in the centre of Edinburgh's Old Town, whereas our largest is a remote swathe of the Northwest Highlands covering over 6,000 hectares. In addition to managing our reserves, we're also involved in several large-scale projects, often in partnership with other organisations. These include ecosystem scale conservation, such as our Living Landscapes and Living Seas projects, as well as species-focused conservation efforts, such as Saving Scotland's Red Squirrels, the Scottish Beaver Trial, and its successor project, Scottish Beavers. Outside the Conservation Department, our education team works to inspire people, young and old, about Scottish natural history, and our policy team actively campaigns at the Scottish Government level for fundamental and lasting improvements for wildlife across Scotland. My role within the Trust is broadly to enable access to conservation data. Because most, if not all, conservation data have a spatial component, and because visualizing data is a good thing, I spend a lot of my time using GIS and making maps. Our staff are addicted to maps. Currently, the Trust use of GIS is restricted to a very small number of us, and the vast majority of GIS work needs to come through either me or my squirrel-focused colleague. A typical workflow involves data coming in a variety of forms, ranging from strangely formatted spreadsheets, data digitized into field sheets, and out-of-date maps scrawled in red pen. I then import these data into ArcMap, do whatever georeferencing and data wrangling is required, and then create the outputs. These are typically maps for inclusion in reports and presentations, but I also make a lot of maps to inform day-to-day operations. Whilst these workflows do work, they tend to be a bit clunky and frustrating. So as part of a wider review of our internal systems, we're currently transitioning to making increasing use of ArcGIS Online and the suite of Esri field apps to streamline pretty much every step of this process. Survey 123 and Collector will be used to replace a lot of our current data collection and digitization processes. ArcGIS Online and ArcPro will supplement our existing data management. And finally, Web App Builder will be used to increase access to our data for both our staff and the general public. For example, this is our Living Seas Webmap. I'm not brave enough to attempt a live demo, so I've made a small video and you can check the app out yourself via the URL. It's a web app designed to inform the public about the pressures, protections and features of Scotland's seas. Now, it's far from the only web map to show these features, although I suspect it might be the only one that shows the Trust's snorkel trails. However, some of the other web maps can be a bit complicated to use and are overwhelmingly detailed. We wanted to make something much simpler and more focused on wildlife and the work of the Trust. It was built in Web App Builder using largely publicly available data, and most of the layers have custom pop-ups, including links to further information and/or the data source. Saving Scotland's Red Squirrels is one of the flagship projects the Trust is involved in. It's also by far the most data-intensive one. A couple of years ago, the data management system for the Squirrel project was overhauled, but the staff, the folk on the ground actually organising the practical squirrel conservation, still only had limited ability to view these data in a spatial context. They need to know where new squirrel sightings appear and how they fit in with planned grey squirrel control work. They need to know where conservation volunteer conservation efforts are focused, as well as administer our annual feeder box surveys. All of this can now be done via the web app. It's essentially an internal project-specific version of the Living Seas map, but because it's not public-facing, it can have a lot more features. The staff can now view all project data, both spatially and via the attribute table. As before, there are custom pop-ups with links to the external database where appropriate. In addition, various filters have been pre-populated and the ability to create custom filters has been left in. Now, whilst this may seem reasonably basic, it actually represents a big step up for the project staff in terms of their ability to interrogate the data. What's more, because of the flexibility of Arc Online, once staff have got to grips with the web app, I envisage opening up more features and permissions for them and giving them access to what is in effect a very user-friendly GIS. I'm currently working on a similar web app for our reserve staff, again with the intention of giving them much greater access to the data that we hold on the places that they work. However, the last thing I want to show you is something else for the reserve staff. It's a tree inspection app built for use in Collector. Currently, our reserve staff carry out periodic tree inspections on all our reserves using paper field sheets and subsequent data entry. Using Collector, we're now effectively going to combine data collection and entry, as well as overhaul the management of the inspection data. Now, calling it an app seems rather grandiose. It's essentially just a single feature service viewed in Collector. The feature service consists of a point layer for individual trees and a related table containing the inspection data. Validation is built in using subtypes and domains, all defined in Arc Pro before uploading to Arc Online. Now, this structure allows staff to view the inspection history and details of a given tree in the field, again making data far more accessible for the people who need it. It allows them to take, save, and view photos of the tree and any defects, giving staff a place to formally store and access things they were previously already informally collecting anyway. Having those data centrally collated in a feature service also helps me to easily pull out figures for internal reporting, and because of the validation, that reporting is based on much better data. A single feature service will replace the whole data pathway for our tree safety inspections. It's an incredibly simple yet effective solution to a particularly clunky workflow. Now, I should mention that the Squirrel map has only just been rolled out, and the tree inspection via Collector is still being tested, but I expect them both to be very well received. Team Squirrel have been asking for GIS for literally years, and the reserve staff understandably hate transcribing data. Now, the applications I've shown you are just a few of the ways the Scottish Wildlife Trust is making increasing use of the ArcGIS online platform. There are several other tools provided by Esri as part of our license, and we're now looking at them all to see how they can be integrated and in some cases replace our existing data flows. The majority of these tools that I've experimented with have been both simple and intuitive for the end user, be it a member of the public or a member of staff, but they're also very intuitive for me, a beginner developer. My first real experience with Web App Builder and indeed ArcGIS Online was making the Living Seas map, and I went from complete beginner to producing a reasonably polished web map in a very short space of time. It's also worth noting that the Trust has actually had access to all of these tools for several years, but they'd always been viewed as something of an added bonus. They came with our ArcMap licenses, and ArcMap is the thing that we actually used. Now, by making full use of the tools available to us through the nonprofit program, the Trust is able to make our data better and make better use of those data. That pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to show you, but I did just want to finish up by saying thanks not only to you for listening, but to Harriet and Esri UK.